Today we are looking at legislation. When we think about legislation, we're talking about law and how it can affect our use of digital devices and other technology. So there's 4 pieces of legislation that we need to know about, not in and out because they're absolutely huge documents, but we need to have an understanding about what they are, why they're in place, and how they can affect technology. The first one we're going to have a look at is called the Data Protection Act. So the Data Protection Act is in place to make sure that organisations, a bit like a school or a business, are handling data properly. So if we think of it from a school point of view, schools collect data about their students and staff, and then they have to store it. Now, they have to have this data. They need to know like medical history. They need to know where you live. They need to be able to do things in certain situations, like if there was an emergency, who to contact. If there was a problem, again, who to contact, and so on. For schools to be able to store data, they have to do it responsibly. There's a phrase that's used for the Data Protection Act, and it's the key principles. This is what should be followed by organisations to make sure that they are handling data properly. So when collecting the data in the first place, it should be collected fairly. Once the organisations have got that data, it needs to be kept secure. You couldn't just leave it in like a tray. That would be breaking the Data Protection Act. Part of this as well is that a school would only store it for the amount of time necessary. Final one to keep in mind is that individuals have the right to be able to access their data. Okay, so the next one we're going to have a look at is called the Computer Misuse Act of 1990. As a general, what it's about, this prevents anybody from hacking and any cybercrime that goes on. What that means, it's illegal to be doing any hacking, creating any viruses or spreading them, or carrying out any cyber attacks. So there's 3 main offences that we're going to have a look at, but these are kind of overarching and lots of different things will come under these. They're just general terms for the majority of things that can go on in the Computer Misuse Act. There's going to be more specific cases, but they would probably categorise it under one of these 3 main things. The first one's unauthorised access, which is accessing anyone's data without permission. The next one is unauthorised modification of data, which means to change it unnecessarily. And that's usually done by spreading malware. And then finally, using computers for any type of fraud, which is cybercrime. The next one most people are quite familiar with, which is the Copyright, Design and Patent Act of 1988. So this is what protects people's content, their digital content. And it means that people aren't allowed to copy things like books, images, videos, or anything without permission. It also protects intellectual property and makes sure that creators are getting paid for what they've made. This is also the act that allows legal action against piracy. This is stealing digital things without paying for it. Okay, so we've got some questions to practice about this topic. So what is the general purpose of the Data Protection Act? Give 2 offences covered by the Computer Misuse Act 1990. Why was the Computer Misuse Act introduced? Okay, let's go through the answers then. So question 1, what is the purpose of the Data Protection Act? So you could have written something like, it makes sure that personal data is collected, stored, and then used securely and fairly. So that'd get you 1 mark. Then you could extend it by saying it gives individuals the rights over their data, such as access and correction. Second question, give 2 offences covered by the Computer Misuse Act 1990. So you get 1 mark for saying unauthorised access to data, and then you could get another mark by suggesting something like spreading malware or modifying data without permission. And finally, why was the Computer Misuse Act introduced? To prevent unauthorised access, hacking and cybercrime would get you 1 mark, and then protecting individuals and organisations from the misuse of computer systems. And that's it for this one. I'll see you next time.